This podcast was recorded on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation.
Guys, welcome back to another episode of Mad About You. Bloody pleasure to have you with us. It's just me this week, guys.
Sorry. Go again.
I'm fine with it if you guys are
Go
fine
again.
with
Go again.
it. Just say hello. We don't need to go again.
Oh, okay. Hey.
Jadé's here, guys. Forgot she said hello. Guys, welcome back. Lovely to have you with us again. But this week on the pod, Jad and I wanted to dive back into sort of talking about being parents and our journey and how it's sort of evolved and the tips that we have now that we've been parents for, 7.5 months with our son. Because I remember we did an episode quite early on in the pod, or quite early
crazy
on
of us.
to having a kid, and we were trying to tell you guys do's and don'ts and tips. And
Tips on
looking
being
back,
parents. What?
Yeah, we had no idea what we were doing. So now that we've sort of got kind of an idea, we thought we would take a look at that topic this week and give you some parenting tips and advice from people who sort of kind of maybe know what they're doing.
We're going to look back on this one in a few months ago. What the hell were we saying?
Yeah, we could just update it every few months.
Every few months,
and it will change. It'll be beautiful.
So good.
And then our Ask Mum and Dad this week it's a tricky one. It came in from a listener who's struggling with the acceptance of a kid from a previous relationship and how it's going to affect their relationship moving forward. But before we get stuck in to the meat of today's episode, Jad and I wanted to tell you guys the reason why we wanted to talk about the parenting journey and sort of how it's changed is because we've turned a leaf recently with our little man. And the thing that we've struggled with the most is his sleep and his independence while doing it, because he always needed to be in arms, in a carrier.
No, I've actually got PTSD.
In a pram. And it was a tricky first, 6.5 months for us. And it
was a tricky half of a year.
Yeah, it was a long time. But recently what we did was we challenged ourselves. We said, look, it's time. We're going to get him out of our room, out of his little cot in our room. We're going to put him in his own room, his own space. We're going to take his arms out of his sleep suits. We're going to not lock him down with anything. We're going to see how he goes. Because, we thought he's getting big now. He was he was hitting the sides of his cot in our room.
No, we need to give context. Okay, so he grew out of his bedside bassinet, which is like the little newborn bed that you have that you plonk next to your bed. And we weren't ready to put him in his big boy cot in his own room because he grew out of that at 4 months?
Yeah, well, we weren't ready because he was crying every 6 minutes. So.
Well, yeah, I wasn't mentally prepared to put him in his new room yet.
Sure.
It felt too fresh. So then we got out the porta cot, and he's been literally sleeping in the porta cot as his cot every night.
Yeah, it's like a cot we use if we when we travel or go away to visit family or something. It's literally a little fold-out cot that you fold in and out and carry. It's like a travel cot.
Porta cot is short for portable.
Oh, yeah. I was just giving a little bit more to that.
Anyway, he was in his porta cot. The other hurdle that we had was we just couldn't really get his arms out of his sleep suit because he kept flapping them around like a bird and smacking the sides of the cot and stuff.
Yeah, because the cot was quite small. If you took an arm out, if he startled at any point, he would whack the edge of the bed and then wake himself up. So it was a bit of a catch-22.
And the thing is, when they start rolling, you're supposed to take their arms out straight away. So we kind of had we kept doing this one arm out situation, which is okay. That's supposed to be a transition thing that you do. And it was a whole scenario. He wasn't adapting very well, basically. And then one day we've just got to bite the bullet. It's going to be a shit few nights. We've just got to cop it and power ahead and take him out of his sleep suit and put him in his big boy cot. And mind you, the transition happened when we felt that we were a bit more ready as well to have him in his own room. We were kind of just sick and tired of the situation. We love him to bits.
It's also nerve-wracking to not have them near and be able to access them really quickly if something goes wrong and mind you,
a bit less anxious now because he's older and moves a bit more and can take care of himself if he rolls over or whatever, lift his head. And so we transitioned him into his big boy cot and he's done surprisingly well.
Yeah, he's killing it. And mind you, let's just give you a time frame. We only did this in the new year. So the first couple of days of the new year when we'd finished all Christmas stuff with families, we came home and we were like, okay, we got to bite this bullet.
It's even been less than it's been a week and a half
max.
I
think it was a couple of days into the new year where we did it. And let's just say that looking at the way he is now,
Oh.
we definitely shot ourselves in the foot by keeping him
Yes.
in our room.
We
for
should have done
too
this
long.
ages ago.
Yeah. So now that he's got like his arms out, he's free to move around. He literally, it looks like the most sterile environment. Like when you look on the monitor, it's literally a mattress. It's flat. There's no blankets. There's nothing. It's just him lying on a bed. He's loving it.
He loves it.
He loves it.
Hey,
rolls
you put him
over.
down. He does his little roly-polies on his side straight away. He sticks his leg out of the slates in the crib, which freaked us out at first, but he seems to love it. Loves a foot out of the bed.
So now we're at this stage where for 6.5 months, we couldn't get him to sleep. We couldn't put him down. He slept in our arms. We'd have to like get him into a deep sleep
For
before
20
even,
minutes.
Like, considering putting him down.
Every single sleep he had, we would sit there for minimum 20 minutes to put him down in a deep sleep in the middle of his whatever REM sleep cycle, whatever it is. Is it REM?
Just keep going, man. Doesn't
Something.
matter.
It starts with something and it ends with something. Something sleep cycle, 20 minutes, put him down. And then half the time we did that, he'd go, bah, 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 and then we'd have to start all over again. New 20-minute block, new 20-minute block. Sometimes we'd sit there for an hour just to get him in the bed.
You can tell Jad's a little bit wound up about this.
No,
guy.
sorry. Like I said, PTSD vibes.
Yeah, so we've put him in his own bed. We've taken his arms out, and now we get him. He gets a bit dozy in our arms. He closes his eyes. You might give it 1 minute, and then we put him down in his bed. And the funny part is, right, for the first 6.5 months, we lay him on his back, right,
Yes.
and his arms were next to his head, and he was staring at the ceiling. The first thing that this guy does when he's not in a small cot is he rolls to his side and then
Yeah.
rolls to his front. So he wants to sleep on his tummy. He
Or
wants to sleep on his
side.
side. He pretty much wants to sleep any way that we didn't have him sleeping.
Exactly.
And now
Poor
that he's doing
guy.
that, sometimes we're getting like 4-5 hour stretches.
Last night was amazing. Tell him about last night, guys.
Yeah, he had a few little wakes early, but they're just like, you pick him up, you give him 2-minute cuddle, and then you put him back down. He's fine. I think we put him to bed at about 8 o'clock, 8:30.
8:30.
He got up at 2 a.m. to feed with Jad. I
Yep.
think. So that's already 6 hours you got there.
Guys, I fed him, did nappy change, back in bed by 2:30.
2:30 down, and then he woke up at 6:30. I went and played with him, and Jad gave her a little bit more sleep until he got stroppy. Another 40 minutes. So Jad had another 4 hours and
Oh my God, I've got to
40
tell
minutes.
you.
So
That felt incredible.
bit of a spring in the step these days, guys, and
Yeah.
a little bit more well adjusted. But yeah, it was this weird transition which we were really scared about, and we thought he couldn't handle, but it was really us that couldn't handle it, and he has
So
absolutely
true.
smashed it. And now it's really opened up this whole new. Like, he's no longer in our room. He doesn't run it. We're allowed to have our lights on. We have a cuddle at night now. We can talk. Like, we're not whispering. Like, all these little things.
Oh
that
my God.
It
We
just
have-
make you feel a little bit normal.
We
again.
have it's like a bit of freedom, it's like a little bit of the reins have been loosened a little bit, and we have our bedroom back. We moved his change table out of our bedroom. There's no cot in there. There's actually no sign of a baby at all, which, sounds kind of sad when I say that, but he's in every aspect of our life. So really, it's really nice to have the bedroom back. And to just be able to lie in bed. We were watching the tennis last night. We were having a cuddle. I read my book. It feels the things you used to take for granted. I'm telling you guys, when you have a kid, you will really appreciate these little things that you get to do. Have a shower. It's so lovely.
So we just recently have found this new space, and I'm talking last week, and it's really lovely, and it refreshes you having the nights where you can sort of like spend time with each other.
And days
reset a little
he's
bit.
sleeping in his cot during the day. That's the other thing
Yeah,
we
he
were
just loves
suffering
it.
with.
He loves his room. I think he actually just wanted to get away from Jad and have a bit of time to himself, which is nice. But last thing on this, which I found really funny, right? So it hasn't even been, let's say it's been a week, right, of him sort of sleeping in his own cot and his own room. We had a couple of nights to ourselves, and I feel like Jad has just forgotten about how, difficult the start was.
Completely forgot.
Because a couple of days in, she was like, all right, you ready to go for another one? And I was like, it's like our third night of just relaxing for 2 hours. Like, can we not just take some time before we start popping them out?
There's this thing that happens where the moment that you feel like you've got things under control, your body goes, make more, make more, make more. It must be ovulating.
Does your internal monologue sound like that? Because that would make a lot of sense.
But seriously, there's and you do forget, people tell you when they have kids, you forget this, you forget that, you forget the pregnancy, you forget the birth. You forget everything. People tell me now they're pregnant and they tell me a symptom they have that I totally forgot that I had a year ago. Not even a year ago, less. It's so weird how your body just swipes your memory completely.
That's so cool to me.
No, because I think I'm forgetting how uncomfortable it got to sleep on my bloody side with that stupid pillow every night. I hated it.
Yeah, but how good that you forgot and you're ready to do it again.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like, the way that I describe it is instead of it being my life that I lived, it's like I watched a movie of someone else's life and I've kind of forgotten half the movie. That's how it feels.
I think that's a pretty cool biological mechanism.
It's really cool and strange.
We're in this nice period now, and because we've had a little bit of success in the last week, we now feel like we're justified to give you guys a few more tips about how we feel we're doing as parents. So
absolutely.
Listen up, and here we go.
Well, I think we should start with newborn tips because I think that's where a lot of people obviously don't know what they're doing. They don't have babies yet and they freak out, which fair enough, babe, honestly. My first tip for having a newborn is clear your calendar. You're not doing anything. You will not want to do anything and you're not going to want to make plans. So if you can, clear your calendar. If you've got something like a wedding or something, honestly, good luck to you. Sorry, hate to freak you out, but I can't even imagine doing that when I've got like a fresh little baby fresh out the womb and then I've got to travel over a state to get to someone's wedding. Can you imagine?
It's so funny, right? So when we do these pods, we have little ideas and then we go and we work on them separately, right? And we don't really discuss them. And it's so funny that you've said that because one of my tips is completely opposite to that. My first one, I literally say don't confine yourself to your house. And I said go out and start experiencing things as soon as possible so that you can feel normal as soon as possible.
I agree with that to some degree. I think it's go to the park. But I think you're forgetting that me postpartum, I couldn't walk.
Sure.
Yes.
I mean, when you physically can. I'm not saying hobble to the car and put your kid in it and take them somewhere just so you can take them somewhere. I'm saying when you have the capacity to do so, get out and do as many things as you can, as soon as possible.
Yes.
So that they become like arrows in your quiver that you can take out and you just know that you can do any time. So go to the beach, go to the park, go shopping, try and go on a night away, visit family, just do all the things as soon as possible.
I do.
So that life can get back to normal as soon as possible.
But that's one of mine for slightly later on. I'm talking newborn, newborn, it's okay. Take your time. You need to rest. You need to recover. That's a huge physical and mental kind of burden to bear and to really recover and get your bearings from, especially as a woman. I'm sure it's slightly different.
It was very tough for me.
I'm sure
to
it's
sleep on
monumentally
that.
different as a man.
It was very tough for me to sleep on that chair for that night that you had the kid as well. So
yeah,
I think you need to think about that as well. It's not just you going through the physical trauma.
Sorry for your fold out chair bed.
Yeah, it was horrible.
There are going to be a lot of people who think you're being serious. We just need to clarify that.
Hopefully people have listened to the pod long enough to know that I'm just taking the piss.
Yeah, someone's going to pick this up. It's going to go viral. Locke says the chair was really hard to sleep on. I just think take your time, rest. I remember there was this one instance where we had walked 7 minutes from the house and I physically had to stop and sit down for 10 minutes because I felt like my insides were going to fall out of me. There was just all the blood was rushing to the region where I'd had the baby and it was very uncomfortable. So just take your time and just know that it's okay to not do anything for a while. Clear your calendar and lower your expectations of yourself. You're not the same person that you were a week ago. You're not doing the same things. You're not thinking in the same way. Your hormones are all over the place if you're a woman. Lower your expectations of yourself. You're not going to get up and do all the dishes and put the laundry on and do this and go for a jog. Sorry, absolutely not. It's okay to just sit in bed and be a sloth and take care of your baby, and that's all you're going to need to do.
When would it be weird to still do that? How long what's the grace
period? Take all the time you need. You will know when you're ready to start living your life again.
Fair enough.
You'll probably feel like you're maybe missing some things. You want to get back into it, and that's when you start doing that. But give yourself the time and the grace to recover and relax and ignore the housework because you'll get it done eventually. It took me 7 months. I'm not joking. I literally just did a huge sweep of the house, got rid of all the clutter, put everything away. It took me 7 months to get around to doing that. That's a long time. The house got really messy, but it's okay. You'll be fine. That's not a priority.
You sound like you're ready for the next one.
I am.
Next kid.
Do
not
something.
Next point.
No. Do something for you, even if it's just having a bath. So often Locke would take Fletch and he would take him for his first like night sleep, which was on him in a carrier for 4 months. Ha ha ha.
6.
Crazy scenes. And I would have a bath, and that was really, really, really lovely for me, especially with like my rest and recovery. Yeah.
All right, so Jad, actually, we did a pod quite recently after having Fletcher, right? And was just talking about parenting. And I actually went and listened to it the other day because I wanted to see what we spoke about and then how much it's changed and what we're going to chat about today. And I actually have a really interesting thing that you said, and I wanted to check to see if you still feel the same, because I think perhaps your mind might have changed. So in the pod, you actually said, and I quote you, you said, "People speak about the bond you feel with your baby when they're born. I just didn't get it." And I wanted to know, do you get it yet?
Oh, of course. Of course I do. It's so different now. Like, in the beginning, they're just like little potato. Like, they're just the potato that you wrap up and then they cry. And they're cute little potatoes sometimes, actually. Sometimes they look awful. But they're not giving much back to you. You don't know them. Like, if you think about it, they're another human being. You don't know who your baby is, you know? Your baby doesn't have a personality. Your baby doesn't engage with you at all. So it's just kind of this life that is obviously, it's incredible. Like, what you've actually done by having this baby that's like half you, half your partner is beyond words. And the experience of giving birth, I just will never experience anything that even comes close to how that feels. So there's all of these amazing things that are involved with having a baby, and you love your baby immediately because it's your baby, but there's no, for me at least, didn't feel like a connection to my baby immediately. It just felt like this human that I had to take care of, that I cared for very deeply, but not like a bond. You know what I mean? Whereas now when Fletcher wakes up and he looks me in the eye and he gives me this beautiful smile and his eyes beam, or even when he was learning how to smile and he'd smile or giggle at you for the first time, like those moments that you really cherish that feel so beautiful and so special, those are those kind of like bonding moments. And now, I've completely bonded with my son. Like, I'm obsessed with him, and I would, dare say he's obsessed with me back. And it's the most special thing in the whole world, and is so different from when he was little potato baby.
No, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
He definitely is obsessed with you.
Thanks.
It's very sweet. All right, one thing that I wanted to say is that I think when you're becoming new parents and you're preparing for a kid, that less is more. So for example, we found out about Fletch, and Jad made his nursery in the first 8 weeks of him being in utero, right? Like, everything was ready. We had every single thing. We had 50 different outfits. We had the toys that he was going to play with, the toys he was going to cuddle when he was in his cot. And 7 months in, and it's the first time that he's like gone in his room and used any of it, right? So I think at the beginning, when you have your kid, I think you need to remember that they need to be around you. They're going to need a few outfits. You're going to need a few towels for them to spew on. You're going to maybe need a pram for them to walk in, and a couple of outfits and a couple of blankets to keep them warm. You don't need every gizmo and every gadget that is trying to be sold to you online.
Shoes,
so
like baby shoes.
We haven't put shoes on. We put socks on a couple of times. He's worn the same outfits because they're comfy, they're great. Like, you just don't need as many things as you're told that you're going to need. And so I think as new parents, just remember you need the basics, and that'll be enough.
Yeah, like you don't need teethers from the get-go. You don't need half the toys you don't need. Your baby, look, potato baby, like I said, like we had one black and white contrast book that he looked at maybe twice,
Yeah, and they're so happy just to be around you, and like you hand them a toilet roll and they'll have fun with it for 50 minutes.
Now,
you know what I mean?
like toilet roll wasn't even necessary back when he was born.
You never need as much as you think you're going to need. The same as like when you pack a suitcase for travel, and you come home and you've worn half the things. It's like that with a kid, and you'll buy everything under the sun because you want them to have everything, and you want them to be, always entertained.
You want to be prepared.
You want to be prepared, and then you realize that you don't use half of it, and it goes to waste, and you give it away to people, and you give it as gifts, or you give it to expectant parents. So just less is more, and don't stress about having every little thing, and know that you can always duck out and get it if need be.
Yeah, that's a good pointer. I like that. Mine is, and that it took us a while to do this, but follow wake windows. So when your baby's no longer a newborn and they're kind of coming out of that, like just sleep whenever, like fall asleep on your boob, eat, sleep, they get a bit older and then maybe they're not going down properly and you're not really sure what's going on. I didn't even hear the term wake windows until Fletcher was like, I don't know, 5 months maybe? Do you remember?
Sure.
And as soon as we started following the wake windows, which is essentially what that means is it's just like a period of time that he should be awake. And there's certain times that like you can find there's a lot of like guides online on what kind of times you can follow for different aged babies. As soon as we started doing that, he just went down for like really easily for a period of time. It didn't last forever. And then we started having sleep issues again. But for a while.
Well, the windows change as their
Well,
age
yes,
changes,
exactly. You know? But for a while, following those wake windows really, really, really helped us. And I wish I knew about them sooner because I felt silly not knowing something as simple as what time should my baby be awake and asleep.
Yeah, because sometimes people go like, just read your baby
Yes.
and just let things go. And that's like not, it's not really the case. They sort of thrive on having a bit more of like a strict schedule and things being certain for them. So if, your baby, goes down really well after 2 hours and 20 minutes of being awake, like you should try and stick to that 2 hours and 20 minutes. And it can be quite precise, So
Seriously.
there's a window of like a 10-minute span where it might be easy to put them down. And then if you're too soon, they'll be stroppy. And if you're too late, they're going to be overtired and stroppy. So yeah, that was quite helpful, and something I'm sort of working on in that regard as well with his sleep, and something Jad has to help me with sometimes because I get a little bit hung up on it, is like not sweating the little stuff, because sometimes as a new parent you want everything to be right and perfect, and you think that the smallest things are going to affect him, but I can be a little bit like anal about him sleeping for certain amounts of time and, thinking that he needs to have, X amount of rest in this period. And because he didn't sleep long, in this nap before, he needs to extend the next one and all these little things. And I think you just need to remember at the end of the day, like, everything's going to be fine. And in the big scheme of things, in a year, 2 years' time, these little tiny moments are not going to matter as much as you think they are. And to sort of like loosen up a little bit and just know that everything will be okay. So, if your baby sleeps more one day than the next, it doesn't mean they have to replicate that. If they eat, more one day than they do the next, they don't have to replicate that every day. And just to not stress the little things and just know that, in the end, everything will be all right.
Yeah, I'm really glad you've said that out loud. That's lovely because I haven't heard you say that.
Well, you've been helping me with it.
Oh, that's really nice. But what I was going to say is with the sleep specifically, which, is kind of all you talk about when you have a baby. But if Bub has a shorter nap than usual and, you might be feeling a bit anxious about it because you feel that he needs to hit this kind of amount of sleep. Like some babies have lower sleep needs than other babies. Some babies have, higher sleep needs than other babies. And this is the thing that's really confusing about becoming a new parent is it's like all this information to tell you what to do and how to do it. But then at the same time, you've got all this information saying, every baby is different, do what you need to do. So it's like, the thing that you were saying about the weight, there's like a chart that we go off. I don't know if it's in New South Wales or Australia, but we go off a chart that has to do with baby's weight gain, and they want to see your baby stay on the same kind of percentile as they grow, basically. However, there's evidence to support that if a baby is breastfed over formula fed, breastfed babies are smaller. So, for example, Fletcher was breastfed exclusively at the start of his life and he kind of dropped percentiles and, we were told that that's not great. Like he now needs to be eating formula, like definitely. So we were freaking out about that and we thought our baby is like underweight, but actually he wasn't underweight. He was just a lower percentile of weight. And so there's stuff like this, which is, you're getting this information and it's sometimes a bit scary and confusing. But then, like I said, the evidence goes to like support that newborns are smaller babies up until, I think it's until they're 1 year old even. So
newborns are smaller. Yeah.
Sorry. Breastfed babies. So, it's all very confusing. And this with the naps, basically, if a baby's got lower sleep needs, they have a shorter sleep, they wake up, they're happy, go off that. If your baby wakes up and is stroppy, maybe they needed a bit more sleep. So like that's all you have to really go off. And that's what I kind of I was freaking out about the naps not long ago. Like a few weeks ago, I'd go, oh my God, he only got this, he only got this, he only got this. But he'd wake up, he'd be really happy and he'd last, the normal wake window and then he'd go back down again. So it's like, well, actually, is anything wrong? No, he's not really acting tired. He seems totally fine. So let's just roll with it. And now that I've kind of lifted the stress of getting the naps at the specific times, hitting that 4 hours every day, I feel so much more relaxed, and I'm sure he's more relaxed, and he's going down a lot easier, and it is what it is, and something that I'm trying to remind myself as well is to be in the mindset of if this was our second child, what would we do? And that's helping me to kind of ease a lot of those stresses and anxieties, because I'd go, I probably wouldn't care as much about this, I'm probably not going to sterilize the dummy every single time that it drops on a surface, even if it's his mattress, so that's helping me a lot now, actually, is thinking if it was my second or third baby, would I be doing this?
Yeah, it's a nice way to look at it. All right, this last one I have is specifically for dads, I think, because I think when I've ever heard about people having kids, pregnancies, and the initial newborn phase, I've always heard this narrative of like, dads aren't really involved at the beginning. Like, the baby just needs its mum and that's all it kind of needs. And I think that is like, I think it's a really bad message to push to blokes, because I think that apart from breastfeeding, if your baby's breastfed, like that's the only time that it direly needs its mum, you know, as in good luck competing with the mum while you breastfeed, it needs that, but that's it. But after that fact, like when it comes to play, settling, nappies, baths, other feeding, burping, whether it's if they're formula fed, like they are all moments in the day where you can be around and be bonding with your kid and can create such a special sort of bond. Yeah. And by the time that kid is 6 months and is giving back a little bit more, they will have such a stronger, and better relationship with you, having spent all that time with them, instead of looking at it as like, they don't need me, they don't want me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they need to be breastfed, they just want their mum, and you kind of shy away from that role as the second parent. And I think that is like, that's something that needs to be told to men, is that you can be as involved just as much as the mother, and it'll create for such a better and stronger bond when that kid starts, recognizing and giving back to people. Because my bond with Fletch is unbelievable, and I can't imagine only starting that at 4 months in, 6 months in, when they get a bit more independent. And then
your baby doesn't know you because you've not spent any time with them. I think it's a bit of a cop-out. I think it's a cop-out for people who are too scared to get involved and who feel like they're out of their comfort zone. We all feel like we're out of our comfort zone. Like no one feels natural with a baby as soon as they have it. I think it's a bit of a cop-out for people who are scared to get involved, and I think it's a bit of a cop-out for people who've had partners who haven't done much in the beginning, to be honest. Like, that's my opinion. There's obviously exceptions to the rule, like you're working full-time, your job requires you to then go home and work more or whatever, like you're not as hands-on and you can't be. That I understand. You need to go sleep in a separate room, or you're not going to go to work and you're not going to function. Totally different scenario. But at the stage where you have the opportunity to do things throughout the day or throughout the evening or whatever, a dad can do more than a mum sometimes, way more.
Love to hear that.
What's true?
Give us an example.
Well, like you were doing all the housework. You were doing nappies, like you were, like when we needed to introduce bottles, you do bottles. A lot of the time, like you're doing more naps probably now still because, I'm trying to do work in the meantime, or like I've been spending 2 weeks trying to tidy the house. So like, the balance is different. Like every day, every week, the balance is different. But you've been hands-on so much so from the very beginning. I can't imagine having done all of that by myself. Like, what? That's crazy. So, yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think that it's not nice to push that message because it also makes men feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe you're entering parenthood going, oh, the baby's not going to need me. I'm not going to know what to do. And maybe you're feeling anxious about not being able to contribute when you really can.
Yeah. Definitely felt that at the start, like, how am I going to help and contribute? And then, I think you just need to wipe that from your brain before you have a kid and know that there's a multitude of things you can do to help. And apart from breastfeeding, you can be part of it all. So
everything. Absolutely. Yeah. That's a great one.
Guys, that's our updated tips, I guess, on becoming parents and any advice that we can sort of help after now being in the game for 7 months with a little one. So hopefully a few of those help. And for expectant parents, maybe you can integrate them into your life. And for, people who are already parents, if anything resonated, feel free to give it a try and let us know if any of them help or work.
And just remember that your confidence will come with practice and time. And sometimes time is all that you can wait for and do. It's just
comparison is the thief of joy, and every baby's different. So remember that.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, your internet parents checking back in to end our episode on an Ask Mum and Dad.
Ask Mummy and Daddy.
Awesome. If you guys did want to write into us, you can do so at madaboutYou@novapodcast.com.au or feel free to send me a DM. Always happy to receive them. All right, guys. Today, it says, I have a very tricky Ask Mum and Dad question. Something I've been struggling with for the last 2 years. A couple of years ago, my current partner, who was previously in a terrible relationship with someone, ended up having an unplanned child with them. There's a long history of events that happened between there and now, but to put it simply, she's extremely different and not really mentally stable. Anyways, back to us. We met and we both just clicked. We've rarely argued about any topics considered normal in a relationship. However, we do argue a lot about the little situation issue which we have about me feeling unsettled that he has a child with someone other than me. I don't think it helps that his ex remains difficult, but I don't think that's the main issue. I think it's something to do with my past, and it's very triggering to me. We're both so committed to figuring it out. It's causing so much stress and arguments in our relationship. The fact that I don't exactly bond, or worse, accept his son, puts us in a bit of a pickle. It's nothing personal because he's an epic little boy, but I'd love for us to just be a happy family, but I don't know what's with me. I feel so awful for feeling this way, but it triggers fear of exclusion, abandonment when I see them together. I then get so resentful of them both. Any advice on this would be so appreciated. The second part to this is that, okay, once we've clicked with this kid, now, like let's say I do, how will this work with our own baby coming this year? I don't want to be even more separated from my partner.
Oh, so she's pregnant?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a tough one. I can't imagine how tough it would be to, start a relationship with someone who's already got a child. I'm sure that's difficult for anyone to navigate. I think it's you've acknowledged that you've got issues around it that might be separate to the actual situation. So my instinct is telling me that it might be really good for you to go speak to a therapist or a counselor or something and try to nut out what that actually is, because it sounds like, your fears of abandonment and exclusion, I'm sure are things that, if you nut that out, you're kind of ruling out issues in other areas of your life as well. But those aren't nice feelings to have, especially when you're watching your partner, spend time with their child. I can imagine that would be really difficult. So yeah, it sounds like it might be something that you benefit from, a bit of therapy or counseling, or I don't know, even chatting to your friends to, I've had conversations with friends about things that I don't really understand myself, and they say something that sparks a thought and I go, oh, you know what, that's really true, or I get to the kind of answer myself eventually. But just talking to someone can be really, really beneficial sometimes, someone that you trust to kind of confide in. And don't feel guilty about the feelings that you're having, because it's totally valid, and I can't imagine how hard that would be, especially when you're pregnant. Maybe you're worried that your family unit's going to come second to a second family unit with someone who's being difficult and making a fuss about themselves. Yeah. So,
yeah, I think maybe it sounds like the main issue is probably the ex-partner who's like making it difficult and sort of making the environment not a nice one. Because I actually know of a few couples who have, split up and share kids, and the new partners get along, and it's actually quite a nice environment, and it makes for such a beautiful place for the kid, because they just get more parents around and it's more support. And so that is kind of a nice thing. So perhaps considering that and wanting to be like another parent in his life and another support system, which is always beautiful for a kid. But yeah, the way I sort of would try and look at it to rationalize it in my head is that kid, like if you're head over heels in love with your partner and that's his kid, then that kid is half him. So it's half of a little human that you're already in love with being him. And that's actually the same amount of, like, it sounds weird to say, but when you have your own kid, it's going to be half him. So like your own kid is going to be half the person you love, the same as that kid is half the person you love. So I think that maybe if you look at it down that lens and, I think obviously if your partner's connected with you and you guys are having a kid, like I don't think you need to, obviously the feelings of abandonment and stuff are not nice, but he's obviously committed to you and wants to create a family with you, and it would be nice for you to be able to integrate them both, and I'm sure his kid would like having a younger sibling, and I'm sure yours would benefit from having an older one. So it seems like you could, it's a shame that you're feeling these things, but it seems like it's something that you have to cross now because he has the kid and you have a kid with him. So it's not something that you can really sweep under the rug anymore, and it's definitely something you need to tackle. So if it's talking to someone externally, go for it. If it's
make an effort to get to know the kid. It might help a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think she said he's a good kid, but she can't.
Yeah, but
sort
maybe
of help the feelings.
Maybe she struggles to spend quality time with. Why don't you go and have a one-on-one time with the kid so you can really get to know them properly and they can get to know you. I think that would be really nice.
Yeah, and just remember that he's a mini version of your partner who you're in love with. So you should want to share that love. But yeah, it is a super difficult one, and yeah, I think I would struggle as well with entering a relationship with someone because having a kid is it's a biological thing. Like you feel connected and you feel like you want to protect and keep it safe and look after it. You can't help that feeling. So it would be hard to try and have those feelings to one that's not biologically yours, but that's not to say that it's not possible. So I think you need to, as you said, just spend as much time as possible and maybe have them be a part of this pregnancy. So speak to them like they're going to have a sibling and make them feel a part of it. And so maybe that will slowly make you feel more connected. But a tough one, but hopefully one that you guys can nut out in the next couple of months before you have the little one. But
thanks for writing in and good luck.
Yeah, update us when you, hopefully you can come to terms with it.
All the best with the birth.
Yeah, good luck. Guys, that's all we have for you. Another week done and dusted. We appreciate you guys every week.
I hate ending these.
It means a lot to us. Yeah, what do you mean?
So sad.
You can keep talking. I can just record you in the car if you want. You can just listen back to yourself.
We should have a live pod stream.
What's that?
Just that everyone can listen to me all day.
Like you just mic up at home and just talk. That could go down well, actually. Guys, we appreciate you checking in. It means a lot. Look forward to having you back next week. If you want to leave a review, we would love you even more. But
like a good one.
We've said there's 100 times.
No, I know, but I don't want people to get confused and go, they want me to leave a review. 1 star.
If that's how you feel, like, be honest.
No, I don't.
Truth helps.
Don't be honest. Don't listen to Locke. He says weird shit sometimes.
All right, guys, we will see you next week. Love ya.